Welcome back to the... Hang on, are we welcoming back?
Yeah, I think we are. We're welcoming back.
Welcome back to the Recruitment Playbook, Episode 3. You're back.
It's a delight to be back.
It's good to have you.
I was cancelled after episode 1.
Yeah, well, do you know, we had some really good comments last week from everyone. So both publicly and privately. So thank you all so much for that.
All I care about is, did you miss me?
Yeah, of course I did.
Alex isn't going to watch this.
No, he didn't miss you either, but I'll tell you the truth.
It is great to be back.
So this week, market update. Not loads has changed. You made a comment earlier, so do you want to fill us in?
Yeah. So a slight shift that we have seen is the senior market is starting to hot up.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would say is, if you're a finance director or a CFO, dust off the old CV, get it in circulation, because we're starting to see some more movement. And what you see in the senior market is a bit of a domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
It's quiet. But then when people start to move, that person's job becomes that person's job, and the domino effect is starting to kick off. So, which is a great sign.
Awesome. Any particular things within the senior market you're seeing? Sectors, level of role, anything? Or is it just, if you're on FD, get ready?
There's a real shift between 80k to 130k.
Yep.
And then once you start to go over that 150 bracket,
mm-hmm.
it gets really, really competitive and the jobs are less.
Awesome.
So the market in that, 110 to 130 feels buoyant. We've got one or two roles on that are above 150. So I still think the real C-suite CFO role is hasn't yet picked up the momentum.
Yeah, and then hopefully we'll see that trickle down over the coming weeks, months.
Yeah, it's great fun.
Into the
we
rest.
love it. The more finance director jobs we recruit, the more we get to speak to finance directors, and they're our clients anyway. So it's the cycle of recruitment. We love it.
So what you're saying is, the more candidates you speak to, the more you can go, excuse me,
Absolutely.
please can I hire a newly qualified accountant for you?
It's brilliant to be able to service your clients effectively as a candidate.
100%.
And I love it.
People are people, they're not clients and candidates.
By the
Let's
way,
keep that relationship.
do you like that I've gone corporate?
Yeah, I do. Yes, you look great.
Thank you.
That's good. So today, hot topic of the day is going to be culture. Hot. So what makes a good culture?
How long have we got?
Not that long.
It's going to be like the Lord of the Rings of podcasts, isn't it? Culture.
Let's flip it.
Section 1.
What makes a bad culture?
I think let's go with what makes a good culture.
Okay, cool. Good culture.
Let's be let's be positive.
Okay, let's be positive.
We don't want to be negative, do we?
No, nobody likes it. Good culture.
When I talk about culture, I talk about like a recruitment life cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a first interview, the culture of the company starts.
Yep.
How do they feel? How are they engaged? What's the feedback like? And then even from day one in the onboarding. So a culture isn't just this mystical thing that lives in an organization. It's how do you set the tone from interview to onboarding to your first year, to your 5th year, to your 10th year, to your 50th year, that the culture resonates through that whole life cycle. And I think that's really important to talk about.
So interesting story on that. I've had 2 messages in the last probably month from 2 different people, both saying, I applied to this job directly, just so that you know, the interview process and the application process was brilliant. And I said, why? And they said, let me forward you on the email that I got from them.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty generic email going, thanks, we received your application. This is what we think. It didn't take them long to write it. But the key thing that came out of it is it's communication. I think there's so many processes out there where people aren't communicated what's happening, positive or negative.
No. And you have an amazing interview, you get the job, and then you turn up on day one and they're not even expecting you. You get one opportunity to make a first impression.
100%.
You set the tone and you keep the standards really, really high. So culture starts before the culture starts is my first point.
Yeah, 100%.
But now the world of work is incredibly diverse. So you need a culture that is suited to the diversity of your workplace.
Yeah, I think it's my view on it is that blend of making people feel valued, making people feel like they want to work hard, but also making people feel like they want to come to work. And that's that kind of camaraderie, that soft and fluffy that's really hard to paint a picture on. You're a SaaS startup and you've got a table tennis table. Everyone goes, woo, we drink beer after work and we wear flat peak caps. But if you're in a VC firm, it's completely different. And you need to work out who's your target audience in terms of your employees.
Yep.
And then what do they actually want day to day?
100%. I agree with you. And also the stage of the company.
Yeah.
So if you want a really fun, creative, flexible environment, It's really hard to get that in a startup,
Mm-hmm.
because in my experience of dealing with startups is, yes, they can be really good fun, but they're really hard work. And sometimes in a culture, you shouldn't shy away from what's required to get the job done. I don't speak to many chief execs, founders that go, we launched a company 2-3 years ago and we've had so much time off. It's been really great. So although, yes, the journey's great, some cultures are really hardworking and really intense and lots of heavy lifting. But as long as you know what that culture is before you go into it, you can almost make sure it aligns with your expectations.
Expectations so key. There's a couple of really big brands that have been in the news over the past couple of years. Most people probably know what I'm referencing, but people imagine that business to be a startup culture. So they think it's going to be, and it's the startup culture of, this is what I think it's going to be. It's soft, it's fluffy. We work 6 hours a day and then we go and drink a beer and play table tennis. Actually, that company is a big PLC with massive targets to go and hit, and people are expected to work over and above. But because that's been mismanaged through the process and through the media, people suddenly put all of this outrage against them. And I think if people are picking up on the particular story I'm talking about, there were other things within that certain business. But I think the whole expectation was mismanaged from the start.
And it's, if you've got, let's say, 1,000 people in an organization and you surveyed all of them on what they think culture is, you'd get a different answer. And if you surveyed them on what do you think a great culture is and what do they expect, you'd also get a different answer. And that's the joy of working with a diverse workforce of different people, because they come with different perspectives, but they add so much into the mix of a growth of an organization. So I think organizations now are having to adapt very quickly and making sure that the way they treat their staff, the way they incentivize their staff, the way they look at their comp and bends, the way that they support different individuals is tailored for the diversity they have in an organization.
So step one is almost work out what your culture wants to be within your space. Step two would be, how do you measure your culture?
Totally.
So that's a tough one.
Really
Measuring
hard.
culture is really hard, because you could do like employee surveys or whatever, but how truthful are people going to be? Because it's anonymized, but it still comes from Patrick at We Do Recruitment.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
You need feedback, and you need to act on that feedback. We see it in recruitment all of the time, where you'll see X amount of CVs from one company that keep coming onto the market, or an organization is continually recruiting the same role. And when you strip that back, the common denominator is usually a cultural challenge. And it's okay to have a culture that's evolving, but what you need is a leadership team that can take that feedback and act on it. The biggest frustration is if someone came to us about We Do Group and said, we're struggling with this part of the culture, or gave us that feedback, I think you can hold your hands up and say, yeah, brilliant, thank you for the feedback. Let's evolve that and let's make it better. If then that person comes back to us in 6 months' time and nothing's changed, you're kind of asking for trouble, aren't you?
So weirdly, in changing the whole feel of the culture across the company, you need to change the culture and being receptive to changing the culture.
100%.
Awesome.
And you have to adapt, because cultures change and expectations change. Go back 10 years, nobody had any hybrid working. You now need hybrid working. So there's a list of each year, different things come in terms of how do you become an innovative employer culturally. And I think you need to always be thriving to be ahead of that, not being really behind.
So bits we can help people with, I think, is more around the initial part of the journey. We can tell people what maybe candidates want, but generally it's that first piece. So onboarding, day one, top tips for new clients.
We placed a CFO into a new job, and the chief executive had basically cancelled his week. So met them in reception.
Totally blank diary.
Just to onboard his CFO. And he had all of the tech was set up. The phone was working, the computer was working, the logins were working, which, by the way, is rare, right? Took them on a tour, introduced them to everybody, had a whole meeting schedule booked in, had lunches booked in, absolutely everything. And the candidate at the end of the week, as a house first week, and they were blown away by how they really wanted to integrate them into the culture. Flip that on the other side, you get finance directors turn up on their first day and nobody knows who they are. And they then have to own the job. Oh, you're the new finance director. Here's a list of problems. Get it fixed. And I'm not saying these people aren't capable of doing that. They are, and they've got thick skin, and they're paid well, and they're there to deliver. But you compare and contrast those two experiences. It is literally night and day.
100%. I think you can be quite creative as well. We work with a food production business. And as part of their onboarding, the first 5 days, whether you're in at the most junior person in the business or you're the new chief exec, you go out and you have to make the product.
I love it.
You have to deliver the product.
It's brilliant.
You have to go and work in the shop. And there's 5 separate days of all these things you do. And I just think it's, no one we've placed in that business, which is probably 20 or so people, has gone, I didn't like that. That wasn't for me. Everyone's gone, it was brilliant, except for getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go and do a delivery.
And that example also enables them to go and understand the business to help the business. Culture leads to attracting talent.
Yep.
But the main thing about your culture is retaining it. So if you can attract world-class people in, because you sell it brilliantly.
Yep.
If you then don't match the expectations that you've sold, you don't retain those world-class people, and then the cost is astronomical, and the culture completely declines. So you got to, the promise you make to the people you hire, you've got to really live up to that. So culture helps retention. Hire great people, they stay, they then hire other great people, and you're in this like cycle of greatness. Bad cultures.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
So culture, tick. Think we're there.
Yeah.
Awesome. LinkedIn. I think we said last week how to make you not look like a Wally online. LinkedIn is your forte. I'm a bit like a builder's house is never done with LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I should be doing more. We all know I should do more,
Yeah.
but I'm not doing it. So fill us in. I come to you tomorrow. How do I make my LinkedIn profile look better? How do I get my social presence up?
You can literally talk about LinkedIn and the optimization of LinkedIn for days. So let's go quick fire.
Yep.
What would I do as the basics? When I put my profile on LinkedIn, have a good photo. And what I mean is you're looking, you're smiley, it reflects you, not half cut off from your wedding photo, not a bad phone that's a bit blurry when you zoom in, not from 1976, right? Let's have a modern picture that reflects who you are, because the picture on LinkedIn should be who I recognize when I meet. So that's one. Make sure you have a banner.
Yep.
It doesn't have, you can go onto Canva, type in LinkedIn banner on Canva. They're free. You can design them. You can have a basic color. You could put something to do with your logo. You could speak to your marketing team and your company, and they will probably have some for you. It just makes it look complete. And when you land on someone's page, which is almost their online presence, if it looks complete, it looks like you're taking it seriously. It looks more professional. It sets the tone. When you add your companies, make sure you connect them to the actual companies. So you can pull through the image, because the image will link it to the sector, and the sector is searchable.
Question. My company went bust. They don't exist anymore, or that company got purchased. How do I get around that?
Yeah, it's really tricky. If there's not a company on there that you can link it to, keep it as is. But yeah, you can't create a logo for a business that's no longer there. However, if I work for a company that's been taken over by a group and I worked there 5 years ago, I would now put the owned company.
I agree with you on that. The new group
Have that, link it back in, because it pulls through the sector. Your CV should match your LinkedIn.
Agreed.
So if your CV says one thing and I check your LinkedIn, it's another. You don't want discrepancies on that. LinkedIn's a great opportunity to put in key searchable words. So have some content around what you're doing. I always advise people to keep their job titles really simple.
It's that think about who do I want to search me? I am a finance manager with a funny job title.
Yeah.
If somebody is looking for a finance manager, they're not going to search my job title.
Yeah.
So genericize, put it into a bucket.
Yeah. And you take American companies, they love a great job title.
Vice President.
Vice President of Administration, Finance and Strategy. Oh, it's wonderful. Like your business card's like this big, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but on LinkedIn, put Finance Director.
Yep, 100%.
Because you will come up in more searches. If you're open to work, put open to work. You don't have to have the ring. You can actually silently go open to work, which means the back end of LinkedIn, recruiters can find and say, it's almost like a flag saying, hey, contact me.
Yep.
Trying to think what else.
I think qualifications, particularly in finance, are really important. People don't always link it back into education.
Yeah.
But on LinkedIn, you can type in ACCA and you can link in your education. So that makes it searchable.
Recruiters are incredibly busy and we have a high volume of applications. So if someone applies to me via LinkedIn, I want to be able to access and contact them quickly. You'll be surprised the amount of people that don't have their email address and their mobile number on LinkedIn. So if I can't access you quickly, it's a possibility that you can miss out. 2-3 days in recruitment is like a year. So you make sure your up-to-date contact details are there and accessible, because if you're on LinkedIn and you're looking for a job, you want people to be able to find you.
Yep. Photo, banner, job titles, education.
Yeah.
I'd say headline as well is reasonably important.
100%, yeah.
What's a good tagline for finance directors?
Something that you've done or want to do. So if I'm looking for you, how do I find you?
Yep.
So the things you want to do, put in your headline.
Cool. Good answer.
Yeah. Keep it really simple. Don't overcomplicate it. And then my final tip is be active.
So on that point,
Yeah.
I have never posted before.
Yeah.
I'm not on any kind of personal social media.
Yeah.
What do I post about?
So when you connect with people, first thing to do when you're on LinkedIn is to connect with people you know, old colleagues, alumni, and current contacts.
Yep.
And that will organically grow. So start off small and then build it where there's relevance. And then if there's anybody on your LinkedIn feed that isn't relevant to you, click on the X button. It doesn't delete them, but what it does, it takes that out of your feed. So then you can drive more content to your page that you want to see. So if you keep liking things around finance systems or M&A activity, you'll get more posts that come up and it drives that traffic to you. So then if you're an expert in your market, so if something comes up that you feel passionate about or you've got something to share, start off by liking one post a day.
Yep.
And then when you feel confident, build up and then put a comment. And you'll be surprised that then people will comment on your comment or like on your comment and you drive engagement. Then all of a sudden you sign into LinkedIn and you've got 4 people who have asked you to connect. And then you start to build that online platform.
Yeah, awesome. I think that the key there is you can drive engagement to your profile without having to post by commenting and resharing other people's content.
It's your online CV.
Yeah, perfect.
And I think it's in this market, given technology and innovation, if you're not on LinkedIn, there are 2 trains of thoughts. Either you don't like technology, 3, you don't like technology and it's just not for you. You like technology, but you're not sure about your personal details being online, and some people have that view. Or you're so good you don't need it. So one of those categories, fine. The other 2, it doesn't send a brilliant message as a creative, innovative finance leader who doesn't embrace technology. So my answer would be, even if you're a little bit anti-technology, get on LinkedIn. Do it. It will really help your search.
And that third category is such a finite pool of people. I think take your egos away at the door, and 99% of people get on LinkedIn.
Yeah, 100%. Do it.
Awesome.
Do it, people.
Do it. So quick 5 questions.
Oh, the greatest part.
The best bit. Jack asks, one tip you would give him to kickstart his job search.
Write your CV.
If you don't do that bit, you can't do the rest of it. Start the domino effect.
The more you chuck out, the more you're likely to get back. First step, write your CV. Sarah asks, how can I be active on LinkedIn without my company knowing?
Quick fire, I've got 2 chains of thought.
Yep.
Firstly, everything you post on LinkedIn doesn't have to be public.
Yep.
So you can contact people you want to privately. Secondly, if you start to build up a profile on LinkedIn now and it becomes the norm while you're in work, then when you want to leave that company, it isn't strange that you're being more active on LinkedIn.
Yeah, great advice.
Charlie wants to know, how important is his or her personal social media in relation to their job search?
Really important.
Can you elaborate?
Yep. Everything you put online is a direct reflection of who you are as a character and your professionalism. We had a candidate who was in process for a very senior job, and they went through a social media audit. And this was a high-profile finance director job with a high-profile company. And his second Facebook picture was him at a renowned American restaurant.
Do they serve beer and chicken wings?
Yeah.
Yep.
And he had beers, and it was an unprofessional photo to have out in the public domain, and they withdrew the offer because of that.
So important.
So yeah, really important.
Just be adult about it.
Yeah. George, should I have my photo on my CV?
Absolutely not, unless you are going for a modelling job.
So I should.
You should, absolutely. Anyone listening to this, don't do it.
But I'll caveat that. Have your LinkedIn URL.
Yeah.
Because then people will be nosy and they can see your great photo on LinkedIn.
Great advice. Adil wants to know, he's got an offer. He's looked on Glassdoor. The reviews are putting him off. What should he do?
Well, first of all, congratulations on the offer, Adil. I take Glassdoor with a pinch of salt. So if you go on a great holiday and you don't like it, you're more inclined to leave a negative TripAdvisor review than if you had a great holiday and you really enjoyed it. And I think if anyone leaves an organization and they've got an axe to grind, or they're disgruntled, or they felt their situation wasn't dealt with brilliantly, Glassdoor almost is a venting ground for that. So I'm not saying there aren't really constructive bits of content, but take it with a pinch of salt. Try and look at if any employees are already there working rather than have left. Glassdoor, take it with a pinch of salt. Don't stress too much about it. Try and look for trends. And if something keeps coming up time and time again, worst case scenario, raise it with the interviewer and say, hey, I've read this. Can you talk to me about it?
Awesome.
George, Annalise has accepted a new job, but the person that interviewed her has now resigned and she's yet to start. any bits of advice?
It's always such a tough one, and unfortunately it happens from time to time. I would say that hopefully Annalise didn't join the role just for the person above them, although that always helps. So in an ideal scenario, she can see through that, give the new person a chance and still let her drive their career. If that cannot happen, then I would say, unfortunately, get out sooner rather than later. You need to be able to explain the story on your CV.
Perfect.
Oh, this is my bit.
You're in, go.
So thank you all so much for listening. This is really great fun doing it, and we hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you haven't already, please hit the like, subscribe button, share it with your friends, add us on LinkedIn, send us a message privately, but hopefully we'll see you next week where we've got Dale in talking about a private equity update.
George, it's great to be back, and it's been a blast.
It's great having you back, man.
Thanks.
See ya.